all of us in this together. All of us here to love and to be loved.
Hi, I'm Bayley Turner. My pronouns are she, her, and I am the performer and co-writer of 36.
Hello, I'm Jo Clifford. Pronouns are she, they, and I am the co-writer of 36. All my life I've lived with death of one sort or another. When I was 12, my mum died very, very suddenly. Mm-hmm. When I was 17, I went off to volunteer in a mental hospital looking after old people, and some of them died, and that was when I first saw a dead body and was involved in washing the body and getting it ready, and that made a very deep impression on me. Yeah, and so the question of death and what happens to us as we get old, looking after, nursing these old people who were not having a good death, really troubled me. And then, well, you know, life goes on and you're young and you forget, you think, death happens to somebody else.
Yeah.
It's never going to happen to me. Old age happens to other people. Never going to happen to me. And then, when I was in my very early 50s, my partner, Susie, the love of my life, died of a brain tumour. We've been together 33 years, and the strain of looking after her in her last months and the grief broke my heart. Physically, it broke my heart, and I had to have open heart surgery, which meant that I died. The surgeon said to me, he was talking through the operation, he said, and this is when I give you an injection to stop your heart beating. I went, what? Well, then I said, well, of course I have to, otherwise I can't
do anything, yeah.
So he stopped my heart beating for 9 hours because it was very complicated what he was doing. And I can just remember the last moments with the anaesthetist, because there was a chance of me not coming back. And I thought, this may be the last human being I talk to. It's so important. Yeah, this is a good exchange. And then boom, and I was gone. And there were complications after the operation. My heart started to beat like crazy, all kinds of stuff went on for years. And the thing about a heart operation is that when you come out of it, you know, your body knows your heart will stop beating. And so it becomes really important both to appreciate life, but also to acknowledge death.
Yeah.
And that made me very aware of how bad our society is with death. We just don't want to know about it. And then COVID came, and I caught COVID at the very early stages, and I thought, well, this could kill me. And after COVID, well, two things happened. Artistically, one is I thought it's very important to create some kind of ritual, public ritual, so that we can acknowledge what's happened. And I wrote a thing called the COVID Requiem, which I performed a couple of times, but nobody really wanted to know.
Oh yeah, it's still such a sensitive subject. I mean, as we say after COVID, that we're not really after it, really.
No, we're not, because we've never acknowledged it.
Yeah.
And then as I turned 70, 70 years and 10, I went, okay, I am going to die, I'm getting old. Things are happening to my body that I don't like very much, but there they are. I want to write about death. I want to write about death in a way that prepares me for it and prepares the audience for it. Helps people feel, I don't know, feel good about it, but at least begins the process of, whoa, this is going to happen. And again, nobody wanted to commission me. So I went off to a writer's retreat in Finland.
Wow.
In February, in the middle of winter. -20 or some damn thing. It was just extraordinary and very beautiful forest. I could hardly walk through the snow, and I would totter off to the meditation room with the others in the morning, and then in the evening we'd all go and have a sauna. And in the Finnish saunas are really, really, really hot. I'd be sitting in this fucking thing thinking, why aren't I dead? Oh, it's so hot, why aren't I dead? And then it was all getting a bit hot, so I would go outside and I would sit in the snow, naked, -15, and go, oh, this is lovely, but why aren't I dead? And I come back anyway, and then I wrote it, and well, nobody wanted to do it. Nobody wanted to help me do it. And then somehow, last time I was in Melbourne, I showed it to Kitan, and he said, oh, this is really touching. I really want to do this. And so the plan was that I would be in Melbourne now, rehearsing with Kitan to perform it. But nobody wanted to fund that.
Yes.
Nobody wanted to have anything to do with that. So Kitan, bless him, said, well, maybe you'd like to collaborate with this very wonderful trans artist I know who could perform it, and you could co-write it. Because, she's very young, so, and bring these two really different perspectives together. And that's what we did. And, oh my goodness, what I love, it's so much richer, it's so much stronger.
Yeah.
Because of the work we're doing together.
Yes, I'd like to think so. Well, because when it came to me, it was that we want to cast you in Sister Death as it stands. And I read it and I was so blown over by it. It was just so, this is poetry at its finest. These stories that were in it, and I sort of went, well, look, I appreciate that you want to cast me in this, mate, but this is very clearly the voice of a 70-year-old person who has a rich life and these rich relationships that aren't going to match with my youth and my life and my way of talking even. Like I'm very Australian, wonderfully British. And so how we want to pull this off. And there was a bit of back and forth about that. And then this idea was hatched to go, well, how about let's just get the two of us together, wasn't it? We sort of jumped on a Zoom and we went, well, let's just see if we even like each other for a sec. And we found these remarkable commonalities, we had these big conversations about, because what I think is so important to remember is that Sister Death wasn't really a trans play. It had your trans identity wasn't really a part of it, which made it kind of a bit singular in a lot of ways in the work that you did. And it was like, well, okay, how about what would it mean if we brought elements of that in? I said, well, that's why I love the play, because mortality is something that you face every day of your life, because you could lose yourself or anyone at any moment. That's something we learned. You lost your mum very young. I lost my brother when he was very young. And it teaches you something, as you say, really critical about life, if you choose to learn at that time. And going, well, all right, well, you can go at any moment, you live life to the fullest, but when you're trans, when you transition, you kind of look death in the eye a little bit, because your old self is kind of peeling off, and a lot of people have these ideas about what will happen to you after you transition, and a lot of people think that death is imminent for you because of the kind of cultural stories and the things in the movies and the people out there who want to hurt us. And so that's kind of where we went, all right, well, let's find some other way to sort of weave that in, and it's been a lot of...
You see, it was beautiful sending you the script of Sister Death and thinking, what is going to happen? When am I going to get back? And just leaving you with the freedom to...
There's so much trust in you doing that, and that was such a big... That meant the world to me, to go, this person has just gone, I've written plays, I know what it means to write, and I went, I can't believe this has happened. This person's gone, have a crack at it. I think you even said, have a crack at it, have a go at it. And we'll see where we land from there. It was such a trust exercise, but giving your baby, or something you've worked so hard for and sat naked in snow for, and giving it to someone to go, well, let's see what you make of it, and yeah.
And what you made of it is so beautiful.
Thank you.
And then that, it's just that sense that as the script has gone back and forth and back and forth, it's got richer. And as I said, what a joy to get your version of the script back and to go, oh, wow, this is someone that can write dialogue. And not only that, but this is someone who understands structure. Wow, this is so rare, my love, I tell you. And what a joy. And then, you see, because it's all got better and better.
Oh, yeah, every second.
And as we've been in the rehearsal room together, which was kind of crazy for me to come here.
Yes, wow.
It's just amazing. Just extraordinary to be here and think, well, okay, how am I going to pay for this? Well, I'll do a bit of Jesus, Queen Jesus here and there.
Yes.
In Sydney and then here in Melbourne. And, well, wow. And so it's all a huge, for me, it's a huge leap of faith. And what a wonderful week we've had.
Oh, yeah.
And how amazing to find that actually my voice, very directly and physically, can be in the production.
Yeah.
What a joy.
Blessing. Well, it has just changed. It's changed the expanse of it, which is amazing.
Yeah.
Well, what I remember so clearly is when you told us over Zoom, you're like, I've done it, I'm coming. I've managed to get in touch with a few people and they've booked me to do The Gospel According to Jesus, Queen of Heaven, which is the show that kind of really brought you to Naarm, to Melbourne.
Yeah.
Well, I'm coming. And I got off that phone call. I mean, I said to my partner, I was like, oh, they're going to sack me.
Oh, no!
No, they're going to sack me because, well, that was the whole point. The original point was that Jo would come out and perform Sister Death. Well, they'll just go back to doing that, surely. So I remember going, well, that's okay if it wasn't meant to be, and maybe they'll let me attach anyway.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
No, not at all. It's just but my partner sort of went, they're not going to do that.
Sure.
And it just made me laugh. And so then when we were, but we had this big discussion about what it means for you to be here and to really shepherd it into the light. The sort of gift of having you here as someone who, Queen Jesus, did such amazing things in Midsumma 2 years ago, and to sort of have you back in this kind of role where we're now co-writers, which is such a, sort of, I don't know, it's kind of special in respectively both of our careers. Talk to me about Queen Jesus. I think that's something that I think. Talk to me about, because the gospel.
Talk to me about Jesus. Yeah. Well, repent. I love my mum, and I am the daughter of God, and almost certainly the son also. My mum said, "Let there be light." And I say, I am the light.
Well, the Gospel According to Jesus, Queen of Heaven, was really a big sort of opening of your career and your influence over. So tell us a bit about what that show is about, but also where it's gone.
Well, the thing about that show is that.
Well, what was it about?
Well,
in case they've got no idea what I'm talking about.
The thing, I still am a very successful writer.
Yes.
Of straight plays, except they're not straight because they're actually trans plays. But in the sort of ordinary
dramas.
In the ordinary theatre, boom. And when I turned 50 and I came out, I knew I had to write about it. Actually, it was before then that I knew I had to write about being trans. And all the plays I read about being trans were all turned down. It actually ruined my career. And so I knew I had to write and perform because there were no trans performers then. And I wrote a play called God's New Frock because I was trying to understand why did I hate myself so much for being trans. What was that about? Where did that come from? And I figured it somehow came from religion.
And this is in like sort of 2000...
This is 2001, something like that. And Wow, I was angry. I said the Bible is a work of pornography in that play.
Icon, gosh.
The Bible corrupts and depraves. That's what I said, because I really believe that. So I did this play, and then all kinds of horrible things happened. My partner got ill. I started to transition. I got ill. I had and I just forgot about the play. I just forgot about it. And I should say I've written. By that stage, I'd written, about 90 plays, so lots and lots of plays, and I'd just do them and boom. And then a weird thing happened. This play found its way to Italy, was translated into Italian, La Nuova Tonacca di Dio. It was put on in Florence, and it was a big hit. And they flew me out to Florence to see it.
God's New Frock, yeah.
God's New Frock, and I saw it, and oh my God, the audiences loved it. It was a sellout success.
Wow.
Toured all around Italy. It is still being performed in Italy to this day.
Amazing.
Anyway, I thought, wow, I'm onto something here. And I said to the theatre company, well, look, I'll write you a sequel about the New Testament. I said, if you give me a flat for free in Florence for 3 weeks next summer. Because I thought it's no fucking use trying to get money out of these people, but maybe they'll give me a flat. And they did.
Yeah.
Wow, right. Amazing.
Manifested,
so
just
there
ask
I was,
what you want.
Bang, out in Florence, having to write this play, no idea. I mean, what I did to prepare myself was I read the New Testament over and over, and I hadn't, the Gospels, haven't read them for years and years and years and years and years, and I went, oh my God. This person who has become a terrible hammer to bash us and is actually on our side. This is someone who was always on the side of the oppressed, always on the side of people that were suffering discrimination. If we were to meet each other, he would bless me and welcome me and totally accept me. And I wanted to write a play that said that. Didn't know how to. Only had 3 weeks, bit of a panic, and then, I was in Florence Cathedral. There's a beautiful, beautiful Pietà. And somehow, I must have had a word, or he must have had a word, and he said, the main character in your show is me. And I am coming back to Earth as a trans woman.
Wow.
And so that's what I wrote. And next year, and I sent it to the Italian theatre company, they didn't reply. They obviously hated it. Or they thought it was too scary, I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah.
So next year, somehow we got a tiny grant, 2,000 quid, to put it on in a little festival in Glasgow called Glasgow. And I found a director and a producer even, and I was teaching full-time, I was lecturing, so I had the money to, because I knew I'd just have to pay for it, really, basically.
As we do, yeah.
This was 2009, there were no out trans performers.
Yeah.
None. So I had to do it, and I kind of knew it would be good for me somehow to do it. And I did it, and people said, quite a few people are a little bit upset about this. And I went, well, okay. And then I turned up for the opening night, and already the street outside the theatre was jam-packed with angry Christians protesting against me. And Catholics had brought a big statue of the Virgin that they were praying to because I had offended her. Protestants had stern placards that said, God says my son is not a pervert. I was terrified.
Oh, wow.
I didn't dare go through them. I kind of sneaked round the back into the stage door. Luckily, they were silly. They hadn't really done their job properly, or they would have spotted me. But I got in that way, and fucking hell, I mean, all hell broke loose with this play. I was performing in a tiny theatre that seated 30 for 5 nights. So 150 people saw the actual show, and yet every night hundreds and hundreds of people out in the street. I got denounced by an archbishop who said, "It is hard to imagine a greater affront to the Christian faith than this play." The BBC filmed the demonstration, so it went all over the world, and literally hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people heard about this play and hated it. You know, so there was all this stuff.
Having never seen it.
No, of course I'd never seen it. There was all this stuff on the internet about how Violet was and disgusting and how what a horrible person. I was all over the tabloid press, of course. Well, the thing is that a friend of mine went in to see the show, and she said to the protesters, "Look, you've never seen this play. How do you know it's so appalling?" And they said, "You don't need to go near a sewer to know that it stinks."
My gosh.
So really profound hatred.
Yeah.
And even the tiny little trans organisations that were around, they said to me, "You have done a terrible thing. You have just made everybody hate us even more. You've really set us back." I was devastated, but at the same time, I thought, well, to arouse this much hatred with this tiny play must mean I'm onto something.
Yeah. Well, when was this?
This was 2009, but I was really traumatized. It took me a long time to find another director, because my original director said, "I don't have anything more to do with this." Original producer said, "Don't have it anymore. Don't." I was on my own. Found another director, found another producer, and we started in race. My church, bless my church, they said, "Do it for us," because my priest was the first one in the original audience, lovely woman, and then bit by bit, I got my confidence back. But it took 5 years before I could put it on in the Fringe. I had to pay for it all. Lost all the money.
Of course.
And but from that, this was late at night in the church, a Unitarian church. Brought it back next year with money, with funding, better venue, and I should say that in the very last night of the first Fringe showing, this woman came up to me afterwards and she said, crying, she said, "My name is Natalia Marlowe. I'm from Brazil. Your play has transformed my life. I am going to translate it into Portuguese with your permission, and we will put it on in Brazil.
Wow.
Please give me the script." So I gave her the script. And she did it overnight. And from there, with great difficulty, she found an amazing trans actress, Renata Carvalho. Though everybody was terrified, couldn't find anybody prepared to put it on. Meantime, I got invited to perform in English in a festival in Belo Horizonte. Wow, so that must have been about, I don't know, 2017 maybe?
Yeah, right.
I was terrified. My God, I've never had so much press attention. And the strain was incredible. I felt like I was absolutely in the spotlight. I was on the front line of the culture war. And on the last night of the performance, I collapsed on stage and ended up in intensive care for 4 days. I'm a Brazilian.
Well, at the end of the show?
Yeah. Well, I collapsed halfway through the show.
Oh.
Boom. Amazing. Stage went whoop, tipped me over, and I fell into the audience. Incredible. Anyway.
Crikey.
But apart from that, the show went without incident. People loved it. And that gave a festival in a place called Londrina the courage to say to Natalia and Renata, "Please bring the show." And they did. And oh my God. It sold out immediately. I mean, my show sold out immediately. The interest was just incredible. but they had to move it. They weren't allowed to perform it in the original venue. They had to move it to another one just down the road. At the last minute, there was a guy wandering around with guns outside Renata's dressing room saying, I'm going to shoot the faggot playing Jesus. People invaded the space, threatened the technical, wow, incredible tension and fear around. And they had to change venues. They didn't have time to publicise a new venue. So the audience met in the original venue, and then they did a beautiful procession to the new venue. And among the people who turned up was a group of young mothers, pregnant mothers, mothers with young children, mothers with babies. And they said, we know we can't get in. We know we can't get in. There's no tickets available. But we are here to provide a circle of protection around Renata. And for the next 2 years, they toured, Renata and Natalia toured Brazil. Death threats all the time, attempts to ban the show. Renata got her tire slashed quite a lot of times. And yet, every time it sold out immediately. Huge queues of people to try and get in. It became a symbol of resistance to censorship and of the fight for LGBTQ rights. And so, this play, my play, has transformed theatre history in Brazil. And Renata, but oh God, the whole Renata's story is extraordinary, but she became a strong activist because what Brazil is very macho culture, and so they are fascinated by travestis, by us. And street work, sex work is just it's a really big business.
Yes.
And we're also featured in loads and loads of soap operas.
Of course.
And films, and yet in the past, trans characters have always been played by cis men.
Yes.
And Renata formed a campaign to stop this happening. She coined the phrase trans fake. No to trans fake. And now she is a big film star, and she is famous, and she is well known. She's asked to speak all around the world about, and I just think, wow, this is so wonderful. And the play has also been, it's gone to Norway. The Norwegian Queen Jesus, amazing. I love her. Espen Esther, oh my God, she's so gorgeous. There's a German Queen Jesus. I have performed the play in all kinds of places.
You'll be doing it here in churches?
And I'll be doing it here in churches in St Stephen's Uniting Church in Sydney and in St Michael's Uniting Church here in Melbourne. And I don't know, it makes me really, really proud. And really proud to perform in these big churches. In June, I went all around America in churches, and that was an extraordinary thing. America needs Queen Jesus. And before that, I performed in Iona Abbey, which is one of the most sacred, holy Christian sites in Britain. Wow. This is beautiful. And I think it's incredibly important that queer voices reclaim the church. Because, as Jesus says, my Jesus says, I always was queer. I always am queer. I always shall be queer from now until the end of time. And that voice needs to be heard.
So let's come to know. You're all good. I think that's it. Couldn't give any more flowers. It's just such an iconic piece of writing and an iconic And it's also been banned in so many places
Oh, yeah,
as well.
my goodness, yeah.
It has been banned in a lot
Has
of places.
been banned,
and so,
yeah.
But coming back to 36, what is your sort of hope for it?
Well, my hope for it is that you are recognised as the big star you are,
Oh, for goodness sake.
That would be one hope for it, because you are. And just to watch you in rehearsal, oh my goodness, people watching this, she is amazing. She has such presence, such power on stage. So that is one hope.
one of many.
One hope. But also I think we are saying things in 36 that have never been said before. And very important because, well, there's a line that you wrote actually about how it's not just us, trans people, that need to transition, but the whole world needs to transition. We have got to find a different way of living in this world. We've got to find a way of living in this world that respects it, that respects Mother Earth. We have got, and that, in all this is tied up with masculinity. We've got to find a different way of understanding what it means to be a man, what it means to be a woman, what it means to be someone who is neither man nor woman, but possibly someone, a mixture of both.
Yeah.
And it's no coincidence that the Republicans that are taking power in America now are so implacably full of hatred to us.
And
obsessed with it, obsessed with us. And there are hundreds and hundreds of bills being considered both in states, all the Republican states, but also now in Congress and in the Senate to stop us. Trump has said he is going to end this madness from day one of his presidency. And that is because we embody the change that is necessary.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's why Queen Jesus has become such a revolutionary play. And I hope our work will have the same effect, because I understand now, with your help, much more clearly the political dimension of who we are and our importance in the world.
Thank you. Yeah, it's watching what's happening now. It's comical and it's boring and it's embarrassing for these people, because it's such an unoriginal way to go about things. This has all been done before. Trans people were vilified, before World War II, which is what's being initiated now.
Yeah.
We are moving towards another world war, and the way that and the end game of that is that's where all the money will be generated from next, in sort of infrastructure needed to rebuild, and that's just what they're looking for. It's just a way to carve more money out of the public and make them reliant upon the governments again, because the governments will and the World Banks will get us out of the war that is being built. And it's the same thing that was done in the 30s. Berlin and Germany were the epicenters of trans and gender diverse research. But the awareness came about that these people who were proving that there was thriving outside of this binary, and unbelievable success and wealth building and happiness and love and joy, but without reliance upon the sort of capitalist crowd. And we can't have that. We need people relying on the cost of living, and we need people to kind of be subservient to the cost of life. And so, they better do away with us quick, smart, and vilify us, and that's sort of what they're doing again now. And it's a distraction. As you know, there's no economic policy, there's no climate protection policy, there's nothing that they've actually got to work with except tax breaks for rich and hating us, and hating immigrants. Yeah. And while we get in all our little policies and while we get all our bills under the line, you can go and get upset about someone in a bathroom, in a public amenity. That's, as long as you're focused on that, then we can keep, doing all the insidious things we do in these big white buildings. So yeah, I agree that it's a real hope that 36 does kind of radicalize people to that, or kind of alerts people to how we're being scapegoated and we're being used.
Yeah.
And the hatred against us is almost irrelevant. It's actually, while it is very real and while it does have real impacts on people, it's actually not it's kind of irrelevant, because what's relevant is what's actually happening in the back end. While everyone's focused and thinking that I'm the enemy, actually your real enemy is back there doing some pretty insidious things, regards to the police and the climate and all these things. But my hope as well is that it sort of politicizes people and brings people into that frame of understanding, but also the thing that is obviously been the biggest gift of doing this work is our friendship. And I've been blessed for a long time to know and have dear friends and lovers who are decades above my sort of birth age, and the gift of that is it gives you a sense of the future. When you're a queer person, you grow up not really having one, because once you announce your queerness to people, they sort of panic about what are you going to do. There's this sort of pattern that's laid out for all the straight people. And some queer people choose to try and muddle along that path, with the mortgages and the dogs and the kids and the adoptions and all the beautiful things that they do. But then the rest of us are kind of like, oh, well, good luck. You can just figure it out for yourselves. There's no kind of pattern and there's no future for us. But when you connect with people who are generations above you, it gives you a feeling about the future and what can I do with this precious life I have. And I'm really excited for that to happen, to people who come and go, build these friendships for yourself. They are so valuable. Build a sense of, and show appreciation to the people who gave us in their own way, everything. The ability for me to do a show like 36 is directly correspondent to, I'd like to believe that there won't be hundreds of protesters outside the wonderful 45 downstairs, and if they do show up, that there's nothing to fear. But it's a direct correspondent to how hard you fought and how courageous you had to be to carry on when there was such opposition. And it's not that long ago.
It's not that long ago.
And it could be here again at any moment. So I'm hoping that people come out of it and get on their phone and call your parent or call your grandparent or call that friend of yours you haven't spoken to. I really hope I hope that 36 serves to really build relationships and rebuild.
And to empower people. So
Absolutely.
And fill them with hope.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I suppose the thing that's worth saying is there's this idea, coming back to what you said earlier, that we're all so afraid of death, we're all so grossly underprepared, and we're so kind of avoidant. And this sort of really turns that on its head. And this is something that we should become very familiar with, because that is what creates vitality. That's what creates life and learning, is by having a really good relationship with death, and sometimes a good relationship with spirituality that sometimes exists beyond the sort of life plane. So that's what is thrilling as well, that it just reframes something so that it's not something to... when we say we're doing a show about death, and a lot of people respond and go, oh, that sounds really morbid, or that sounds really sad or really tragic. It's not. It's actually wonderful. It's actually empowering. It's nourishing to see the bigger picture and to see this beautiful parade that you are part of humans who have changed things for you, and already this show has helped me to experience that not only am I being changed by you and the people who are ahead of me on the road, but it's already making me aware of the people who are coming up, across from me and behind me, who are looking, who will look to me in that way at some stage of life, and that is just really, that's really big. So no, I'm really excited about it. What 36 is about, for me, it's about an intergenerational relationship within the trans community and the value of that relationship and those relationships and how they help us when we are facing those life stages where we are thinking about at whatever point we may not be here any longer. And the beauty of it being co-written by us is that we're both in a version of that. So, because I'm at the sort of beginning of my transness, and I'm at the beginning of my journey, and I'm facing all of the sort of onrushing of, messages from the culture about, my death, and I'm facing that kind of now, and I'm also sort of facing the approach to middle age, and there's the times where you're sort of moving through that phase of life where you're starting to look a bit further down the line. And of course, for you being 75, go with the natural term may be coming to a close, and it doesn't kind of guarantee anything either. I could one of those lovely trams passing by out there could knock me down any second, and there's no pattern, there's no kind of, but in some way, in terms of the natural course of life, you're sort of looking back in a way, and I'm looking ahead.
But I think what's also wonderful about it is that, in a way, the fact that we are both trans is not important, because this is a love between two human beings, one who is quite a bit older. I mean, you're the same age as my younger daughter.
That's right.
So there is that sense of relationship, and yet the problems we're talking about, everyone watching this, everyone going into the theatre has got to find a way of, it's not so much accepting the fact that they are going to die. Everyone who goes to that theatre will have lost someone. Yes. Everyone going to that theatre will be confronted by the need to grieve, the need to acknowledge grief, the need to not deny grief or try and get over grief or try to get back to normal, but to move forward into a new and actually richer understanding of the beauty and the glory of life. And I mean, when I write a play, and this is no different from all the other straight plays and all the other plays I've written for theatres, I want theatre to be, I want it to be about something really important. So intellectually, people come into it can go afterwards, have really amazing conversations about, wow, do you remember when it opens up them intellectually, but also emotionally rich in a whole gamut of emotions, from grief to anger to joy to love, richly emotional. And I want the play to be beautiful, to look beautiful. We are working with, my God, the most amazing designer. And I want the play to have very sexy people. I want to see sexy people on stage.
That's the one place we haven't quite nailed.
No, we've got that one. Wearing something beautiful.
Oh, yeah, it's like.
And I love music. The fact we've got music in this play, and Kitan is such an interesting visionary director, and the way he's using technical stuff, screens, cameras, voiceover. I mean, wow, this guy is amazing. We are working with one of the very best young Australian directors.
Yes.
That guy is such a joy to work with. And so what people are going to, and also I want plays to have a spiritual dimension. Yeah? Do you remember Kitan asked me, suddenly he said, what kind of play do you like seeing?
Yes, I do remember. You got very animated.
I launched this diatribe about all the stuff I don't like to see. But actually, what I want to see is the kind of theatre that we are creating at this moment. Theatre that gives pleasure in the richest, most unexpected, most delightful, gorgeous way imaginable. And that is what this play is. I say this in all modesty.
I mean, when I think I got asked, we are talking about who it's for, because when you're writing something that is apparently queer, or when there's a trans woman on the front of it, it creates a lot of expectations about what it will do or what it will be. And I just want everyone who sort of is thinking about coming out, just chuck those in the bin, because you're right. the reason I wrote about it this way was to acknowledge that grief and death is a human experience.
Yeah.
And so all human beings have a relevance to this. And this idea that trans people and trans stories should be kind of squirreled away and niched to only communicate with trans people is not, it's not useful. It's not, but it's also not useful to create work for me that is instructive to cis people about being trans. That's not it either. It's about going, this is a means by which we all share a life experience here. And what that creates is a strong relatability. And that's my sort of belief in who should come, is everyone should come. And you should bring your grandmother. You should bring, a parent if you trust them. You should bring, you should bring someone who's, maybe that bit younger than you, or, bring someone who's in your own relationships, or the people who you have gone through grief with. Bring those people and allow it to kind of enliven your grief experience together. I think the only show this isn't kind of, the only people this isn't made for, there is no one. But I think the only people who it isn't, because even people who don't understand us, I think, have something to gain from being there. People who don't like us, have something to gain from being there. Just to understand that we are just people, and we're going to have to do the same thing that you're going to have to do, that your grandfather and your great-grandfather and your great-grandmother all had to do. We're all doing it. We're all doing it. So we are all in this together, and we are all going to, leave this life at some glorious stage. And so, I'm hoping it's something for everybody in that fashion.
There's a quotation from Queen Jesus that's just come into my head.
Oh, yeah.
All of us in this together. All of us here to love and to be loved.
That's it.
And that's it.
That is exactly it.
Yeah. Dear us.
So buy a ticket.
Yeah, whatever you do, buy a ticket.
Yeah. We've talked about this a lot, about this notion that a lot of people think about transition as kind of one moment. And we don't have that experience. No. But can you talk to me about what your experience of transition has been?
Well, it all started when I was very young. One of my very earliest memories, actually, is looking into the mirror and seeing a boy. And I'm not feeling this wasn't quite me somehow. And I could not understand that experience at all. And I also knew somehow I couldn't talk to anybody about this. And it was really, really, really frightening. And then as I got older, I discovered, I didn't want to be with boys, really. I wanted to be with girls. And I didn't want to play with boys' toys. I wanted to play with girls' toys. And I didn't actually want to wear boys' clothes, really. They were pretty disgusting. I wanted to wear girls' clothes. And then I also realised at the same time as all this was going on that all these desires of mine were, in the eyes of the world, utterly, utterly disgusting and wrong. This was in the 50s. And I couldn't think of myself as trans. I couldn't make any sense of myself at all because words like trans did not exist. And now I look back on my life, I can see it as a long, long, long process towards understanding and accepting that feeling. Because of course when I was young, all I could do was try and hide this away from myself. But of course, Queen Jesus, to quote Queen Jesus again, how does it go? Queendom is like a mustard seed. It's tiny, tiny, tiny. And you can try and hide it if you like. But if you do, it will grow inside you, big, 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 until it feels like there is no room for anything beside it. Wow. And that's exactly what happened to me. I kind of kept myself going for years. I fell in love with this beautiful, beautiful woman, Susie, and I was able to come out to her as soon as we got into bed together, more or less, and she said, "I know there's something feminine about you, and that's why I like you. Saved my life." And then when we had children, because she was a feminist and we shared childcare. Literally, we divided the week in two. So I was father and mother to our children. She was father and mother to our children. And I loved looking after my daughters when they were small. And at the same time, I found myself as a playwright. And to write plays, I become the characters. And I wrote plays where the central character was always female, where there was a proper gender balance between male and female. Still revolutionary, that's still unusual, but this was in the 80s. Very, very, very important to me. And then I started to say casts have got to be multiracial. Oh my Lord, that freaked everyone out.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But that's important. Anyway, boom. So I was becoming a woman in my writing. I was going off to write and wearing women's clothes, and I was bringing up my children and that. But gradually, children got bigger. I couldn't really come out to them properly while they were still at primary school because I knew they'd be bullied. I knew the parents of their friends wouldn't want their friends to come to be looked after by me. Horrible. It was horrible, horrible, horrible. But by the time I reached my 40s, well, Susie said, this is just growing inside you. You can't. And at the same time, there was always intense levels of misinformation about us. And again, in the 90s, horrible book was produced called The Transsexual Empire, that is the foundation of the TERF movement now. Horrible book. We read it, we believed it. And so I believed I could never become a woman. Didn't matter how much surgery, I could never become a woman. But in the end, by about 2000, I just couldn't go on living. I had to say to Susie, I'm really sorry, love. I've got to, well, it was called the sex change operation. I mean, how inaccurate, how damaging was that? And she said, I'm so sorry, love, but if you become a woman, we're not going to be able to have sex together. So I put it off. I said, okay, let's see if we can work this out some other way. And then I'm so glad I did, because she became ill soon afterwards and I was able to look after her. But oh my goodness! And now, finally, and then I could go on for hours about this.
Yes.
Hours and hours and hours. But what I finally come to understand after my tiny bit of surgery, is that it's not a matter of me becoming a woman. I live as a woman because in a gender binary dominated society, that's the only way I can live. But it's not true that I'm a woman. And she is not really my full pronoun. There's a world shortage of pronouns. Little known fact. Unless you speak Finnish, in which case there's only one pronoun for everybody. We should all learn to speak Finnish. Again, this is the other really interesting thing. Because when I came out in 2000, I didn't come out as a transsexual, because that was the expression then.
Yes.
I came out as a bi-gendered person. I saw that really clearly then. So I became out as a gender non-binary person, but of course that hadn't been invented. So here I am here we are, 2024, and I can proudly say I am non-binary. Yeah. But that is such a negative expression. I don't want to be a non-something. I am my own amazing self that embraces my masculinity and embraces my femininity. And it's about moving forward to discover new gender identities, which have always been in the world. Every other culture that's existed, more or less, has been far wiser than we in the West, and has accepted that there is 3 genders, 4 genders, 5 genders, 6 genders, infinite numbers of gender. And that has been proved biologically as well. This is how it is. This is how the world is. This is how we must move forward. Clever me. To find my way through oceans of incredible isolation, massive misinformation, huge grief. And I'm delighted with myself, really.
No, I'm delighted with you as well.
But at the same time, and there's a lot we could say about surgery, because I imagined I would need to get a vagina constructed and all that. And that's what I was going for until I had my heart surgery, and then I couldn't do it.
Yeah, right.
I was devastated. And then I finally came to understand, actually, no, I don't need a vagina. If I want somebody to penetrate me, I've got very, very wonderful organs.
Yes, all the things. It's all workable.
All these fantastic things. Pleasure comes in all kinds of form, and I would love to do a show about sexual pleasure one day. I would certainly.
Well, that'll be what we write next.
Perhaps that'll be our next project, love, because wow, and boys, oh dear God, the misinformation I was given as a boy, terrible.
Well, I mean, if you want to talk about, if what is the opposite of death? It's sex.
So
if there was ever a sequel to 36, it'd have to be 69, wouldn't it?
69. Yeah, that'd be wonderful. Oh, let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it. I'm so excited. Well, can you please tell the story that you told me about when you had your meeting with the surgeon? That terrible surgeon with the forms,
Dear surgeon.
Because obviously this is at a time where surgery was sort of a validation of your identity.
Well, you see, that's how it was presented to me. And I can't remember what year this was. Well, actually, it would have been 2009. That's right, because that's right, because I discovered I couldn't have the surgery when I wanted it. Had to be put off. I had to go through the NHS process, which meant I had to talk to 2 psychiatrists and prove to them that I was sick enough, but not too sick. Very complicated. I couldn't, these gatekeepers. Well, I looked up the symptoms I was supposed to present, and I gave them those symptoms. And these people that were supposed to help me were no help to me. But anyway, the charming young men, I got on with them very well. And the second one said, I can now refer you to the surgeon. And this is his website. So I went, wow, great. I went to his website, and there was the details of the operation. There were 3 operations. There was vaginoplasty. And I went, I don't know, I thought I'd wanted that, but when I saw the details, I thought, this is a horrible act of violence. This expresses the profound violence and hatred. No. So there was another option. Option 2 was a thing called a cosmetic procedure, where they completely remove your testicles and sort of make all that kind of invisible somehow, and they shave your penis down till it's something very, very small, so that from the outside it looks as if you've got female genitalia. That was the second option. And the third option,
which means it's just that there's no kind of vagina. There's no
actual vagina, but there's just
there's no.
But it kind of looks like it, so that if you don't have to be ashamed of your.
Understood.
If you are ashamed. And the third option was something that it's either called orchiectomy or orchidectomy. I like orchidectomy because it's like removing a flower.
Yes.
But I mean, what that really means is castration.
Yes.
And I went, whoa. And I was really shocked at myself, thinking that's what I want. Because what I really want is an end to the hormone warfare that's going on inside me. I thought, perhaps it means I'm not a proper transsexual trans woman after all, because, God, the shit I was told all the years. Anyway, but I thought, well, never mind, I'll go and see this nice surgeon, and we can have a proper proper discussion about
Yeah.
it. And I went in, and there were all these people in there with him. You know, there was. He said, "Oh no, this is the nurse who will be looking after you." And then, "Oh, I hope you don't mind, but I brought in 3 students to." And I went, "Yeah, I do fucking mind. Actually, thank you very much." But of course, I didn't dare say that.
Yeah.
So I went, "Okay." And then we sat down, and he said, "No, he said, the psychiatrist tells me you need a nasty operation."
Oh my gosh.
And then he said,
That's the opener. The psychiatrist tells me you need to have a nasty operation. Oh gosh.
Sign here. And there was the sign, there was the form, and he'd filled out my name. And he said, "Sign here." And I went, I'm never going to talk to this guy. I said, "No. And he looked at me. And he crossed it out. And he said, "Oh, so you want the cosmetic operation?" And he started to write that down. And I said, "No." I was getting louder and louder. I said, "No, I want an orchidectomy." Very loudly. I think I banged the table. I was furious at him, and he went,
Yeah, so you can scratched it out.
and he scribbled down, and he signed it. And he said, "Sign here." And then he said, "Take this paper, get out this clinic, turn right, go into the main hospital, down the corridor, 3rd door on the left, give it to the woman." And then he said, "You'll be back." As I left the office. This bit of paper.
Oh God.
Trembling like a leaf. But I thought, what am I going to do? Well, I know what I want. I don't want that guy anywhere near my genitalia.
Yeah, gosh.
And then I thought, what am I going to do? Anyway, so I went round and I went into the main hospital and gave the form to the lady, who was lovely. Oh, she was so lovely. And I went home. I kind of did the research. I thought, can I get this done privately? No. And then within a fortnight, I got a date for the operation really quickly because it's so simple. And I thought, okay, nothing else. So I went back down to London, Charing Cross Hospital. You had to turn up at 7 in the morning. I was terrified because I had no idea what this would involve.
Was anyone with you? Were you just alone?
Well, luckily I had a friend, a dear friend, who took me and let me stay in his flat afterwards. A lovely man, dear Patrick, bless him. And so there I was, my little suitcase. And they were so lovely. And I had a nice room looking over the River Thames. Gorgeous Filipino nurse, and he was just very nice. And then a surgeon turned up, and he had cycled wearing lycra. And you know a certain kind of middle-aged man wearing lycra? I found it oddly endearing. He looked awful, but he was very charming. He said, "Okay, jolly good, blah, blah, do this, sign here." And then the anaesthetist came round, and I was really curious to know how they did it. So I said, "Could you keep me awake?" "No!" Yes. So I never discovered how they did it. It must be very, very clever because it just takes a couple of minutes, really.
Yeah.
And I had to stay in overnight, but that's just because of my age and stuff. But actually, within 3 days, it was all healed. It was all finished. It was all done. I'd got a place in a beautiful writers' retreat in France. I was able to cycle, and soon after that, it was near the forest, Fontainebleau, beautiful place. Cycling along, I was still in jeans, I looked a complete mess. And there were these lovely cottages, and there was a woman in one of them doing her garden, and she looked up and she caught my eye, and we smiled at each other, and she said to me, "Bonjour, madame." I went, oh my goodness. I've done it. And then sort of middle-aged Frenchmen started to chat me up. Oh, I didn't know what to do about that. And up to then, you see, I've been getting a lot of abuse on the street. All stopped. And then it was actually just 2 months after that I did Jesus, Queen of Heaven for the first time.
Oh my gosh.
So good year.
I'll say.
But I mean, and that was, again, that was my own journey. Essentially, I made that up as I went along. And, I don't know, someone I've met in America, and she's just had the full operation, and she's posting on Facebook about
all the things,
and she's being so brave about it.
Yeah. But it's a big, as you say, and it's so interesting because, you know, it's such a private conversation for a lot of people. But I think so much about it's something you face. We all have to face it, and thanks to the work of so many people who have come before us, you know, trans people now live with the real privilege of not having to make. There is a choice.
There is a choice. There wasn't a choice for me, really.
Yeah, and
I just made it because I'm bloody minded. And I actually, I think it's important to talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Because for me, it was a matter of going, all right, I think about it similar to people who want to have children.
Yeah.
So one of my closest friends, she's needed to have children since she was 3. She got like a baby born doll, and she's wanted to be a mother ever since. Yeah, it's never ceased in her. It's deep. It's almost biological. This need that she has to have children. And I go, well, you should have children because you have been preparing for this day, and this is something that you feel in your core. It's part of you to have children. You should have children if that's the case. You deeply desire them. You believe that they're, whatever. And I don't have that. And so from that perspective, if I were to have children, there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
But it's also not a problem if I don't, because I don't have that. And I feel like it's the same way. I've got very dear friends who are trans who have this deep core yearning to have vulvas and vaginas. Yeah. And you know what? You should, and you should get them.
Yeah, absolutely. Go and
the
get
option
them.
Is there. Go and do that for yourself, because it will bring you all the things that it brings you. But if you don't have that, you don't have to do it. You don't have to have kids to be valid. You don't have to have a vagina to be valid as a trans woman, or a penis to be valid as a trans man, or and so that is just such a big thing. But you're right. There's so much of it that it was forced upon us. Yeah. And so many trans people would not have had those surgeries were they not forced into sterilisation and castration.
And forced into it,
And without even, it wasn't even a lot, not even forced into it, but you couldn't be who you were. You couldn't have the identity of being trans without making some sort of surgical adjustment to your body, and all of the financial and the physical cost that comes with it. It was about, and the inability to continue to have children, all the things that it destroyed in so many people who, given the opportunity to just consider things more. And this is something that I'm, one of the best parts of my journey when I transitioned, as if I'm not transitioning all the time, was when I started hormones, and it was the most awful time ever. It was horrible. I was so out of control of my emotions, and I was really struggling. And I was like, where's all that calm I was promised? When they sort of said, oh, on estrogen, you'll feel a period of calm. And nonsense. I was so overwhelmed. And I went off them for fertility reasons for a bit. And that was three months. And then at the end of the 3 months, I went, oh, hang on, I might just keep doing this for a bit. And I'm so glad it took a year to do what was now called socially transition, which is, just to, as I said, live as you are, or live your truth, or live as a woman. Live as a woman is this sort of stupid way to phrase that for me personally, because and I'll get into that in a sec. But just to I went, if I can't do it with hormones, if I can't do it without hormones, then I can't do it. If I can't connect to it more deeply than medicine or surgery. Or beauty, or if I can't feel it in me more deeply than anything could simulate for me, then I don't want to do this. I have to find it. And I'm so, it was such a kind of pathway to go, oh, well, I want to get on hormones. I want to start the physical side. I'm so glad I waited to just feel it without thinking that it was attached to this or these or this or whatever or this stuff. It's crap. And that's when we sort of talk about, and we talk about it in the show, and we've talked about it before, is, it's this idea of, do you want to be a woman? It's just not it. It's that we are women who were born like this. Yeah. And what we're doing is figuring out a way to be women in these bodies. I had a wonderful therapist who helped me with this, and who said, I was doing all of this language of like, I'll be a woman or I'll whatever, and she's like, you are a woman now. The minute you felt it, the minute you felt womanhood, that was it. The jig is up. The game's over. You are a woman now, and I had to do a lot of grieving over the fight that I had made to try and make manhood work. I tried everything I could think of to exist as a man and to identify that way. And, not only could I not do it, no one else was responding to it. No one else believed it either. So, which was, I thought, so funny. And so many other people went, oh yeah, that makes sense. Oh gosh, well, was anyone going to tell me and let me in on the secret? But they didn't know either how to articulate. They just knew that I wasn't all together. Well, that brings me around to the next question I wanted to ask you, actually, which is about those femininity and womanhood. What have been your experiences with that? Those sort of there's the times where the women around you go, well, that's what womanhood is. Those kind of welcome to womanhood moments, as we call them in the show.
Well, I suppose. Oh gosh, it's a complicated question. I suppose I've got two memories in my mind at the moment. One of them is being in a loo in a bar in Liverpool, and I'd gone to Liverpool soon after I'd had my surgery to do Queen Jesus in a hotel. Long story. Anyway, there I was. I did Queen Jesus in a hotel room, rather gorgeous hotel room, and I went. I think it was in an art gallery, quite a progressive place, and up to then I'd just been feeling really happy in my body for the first time, and had that wonderful thing of looking in the mirror and going, oh yeah, hello, that's you. Hello, I like you. Wow, how lovely. This is me. Oh, that was really good. Yeah. And then, but so I went into this loo. And it said, resist the cosmetics industry. Because it was all about the fact that women are made to feel ugly by the cosmetics industry. Yes. And then they're inveigled into buying all these products. And I went out and I looked in the mirror and I thought, oh, I don't look like a woman is supposed to look like at all, do I? And that was the first thing, this sense of the... But actually, I knew all that theoretically in any way.
Oh, but it's different when you know it in yourself.
But suddenly in myself, I felt all the weight of all the standards to be thin, to be curvy in all the right places, to have the right shaped nose, the right lips, all that stuff, the right hair, do your makeup, all that, and of course I'd known all that for years, but now I really, boom, there it was in my body, and the feeling that I was no good. I was no good at it. Yeah. That I was wrong. That was a wrong shape. Bang. That was one welcome to womanhood experience.
Because I had a similar thing of, being considered somewhat attractive in my youth, and I remember having that moment where I was the night that I had the big awakening, and I remember thinking, oh my God, I'm going to become an ugly woman. That was just what I believed, not because trans women are ugly, but it's that what we're told that trans women are. Yeah. We're told that trans women are inherently ugly somehow. And even if they do manage to sort of access passing beauty, it's at the minute that you discover that no matter how much they might look like any other woman, the transness builds in this ugliness, and I was so afraid of that, being like, and I remember thinking to myself, well, look, I'd better do it now. I bet if I went, oh, maybe I'll put this off a bit longer, and I better do it now because you're not getting any prettier. It's not going to be any easier the longer you wait to try and to work with that. But the big awakening moment, I think for me, the last hurdle before I accepted my transness was that thing of going, well, I can't be because I'm not pretty or clean or demure or whatever. And my brain just went, who do you know who's like that? What woman is in your life who you love and respect and appreciate and follow who is like that? And I went, oh gosh, none of them. They're all messy and gloriously fat and and smart and healthy and verbal and opinionated and ambitious and highly intellectual and highly capable. And I went, oh, if I'm like that, if I'm a woman like that, well then I'm a woman, and that's X equals X, and I've managed to both sides of the equation have matched, and now we're both women, and well, okay. So yeah, I absolutely understand what you're saying.
The next moment was I was crossing a busy road, and this charming man of a certain age, quite distinguished looking, pretty good looking, nice man, said, "Let me help you across the road, love."
As though you'd never crossed one alone before in your entire life.
So he took my arm and took me across the road, and he was talking to me as if I was an idiot, as if I was stupid. And I thought, oh, this is a bit weird. What's happened to me? Am I looking stupid? And then he went away, and I said, thank you very much. And I thought, I know what it is. He is seeing me as a woman.
Yeah.
And then, just before I came here, we were away for Christmas, and I got back to Edinburgh bus station, me and my daughter and my son-in-law, right? Got a taxi that sort of was over there, so we're quite a long way away. And my daughter went and spoke to the taxi driver to kind of say, yeah, and then my lovely son-in-law Ian, we went across with the luggage, and I was kind of walking in a slightly hesitant way, as I do on the street now, because I might fall over. And Katie said, well, the taxi driver said to me, is that your mum? Now, actually, my daughter calls me by dad, but anyway, to save complication, yes. Katie said, yeah, that's my mum. I got on the taxi driver, and he said, oh, hello, love, how are you doing, darling? Are you all right, dears? And okay, so I got in. Can I help you, love? Got into the taxi, sat down, and I started talking to him like a human being, as you do. And by the end of the 20-minute journey, it was, here we are, sir.
Goodness sake.
And I had changed gender.
In 20 minutes?
In 20 minutes.
God.
And I said to Katie, did you see that? I've just changed gender in 20 minutes. And that was another moment. Can I give you another moment?
Yeah.
There's lots of moments. Now, I was in Greenwich. I was in a hotel in Greenwich. I had a show opening in Greenwich. And there I was in the foyer, just sort of, I don't know what I was doing. Maybe I was going to check in or something. And these three guys that really fancied themselves as hot men, and they were looking for pretty girls. Obviously, and they were I could feel their glances just sweeping over me in about maybe half a second, and they'd just gone, that person doesn't exist. And they just walked past, and I went, yeah, as an older woman, I am invisible. So that was incredible ageism.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if I was young, and I thought, well, thank God I'm not young and attractive, because they'd have made my fucking life a misery.
Yes.
They'd have really,
Can verify, yeah, that's how it works.
And thank God for that. So I was both mortified and yet relieved. And
Can I tell you, very recently I was at a bar, I was having a very big night out.
Yeah.
I was with, some friends and my partner, and I sat down next to this, just sat down in the smokers area, and this gentleman was chatting to me and was asking me, who I was, and asked about myself, and just kept complimenting how beautiful I was. And it's lovely to hear, of course. And I sort of, my partner came and sat down. I was like, "This is my partner," and he went, "Oh, are you open?" I was like, "Well, yes, we are." And and it was almost like as soon as I said that, it was sort of open season, and he just said the compliments just got more intense, but also the compliments then became accompanied by touching, and it all got very extreme. And I talked to my partner after, and I was like, "That was a lot." And he went, "Yeah, he had his hands in your mouth. He was inspecting you like a horse, like he was looking at your teeth."
Oh my God.
And my partner had never seen that happen before, and didn't really know
how to do.
Well, what do you do?
What do you do?
And going, and he didn't want to cause. He didn't do what he wanted to do. But it's that sense of going, the gall of this man to really believe that he had access to your entire body for his own interest and his own literal inspection of my appeal. And it happened a number of, as you say, like being in that frame, because the fetishized beauty of trans women is entirely other, where going out and getting really harassed and physically and verbally, but not in that sort of violent, aggressive, angry way, but in a very violent, aggressive, desired way, and so yes, as someone who's on the other flip side of that, I can. You're right for thinking it, because it's not all it's cracked up to be either, as nothing really is.
Yeah, it's horrible, horrible.
I'm thinking as well about one of my similar experiences that you were talking about, with your gender changes all of a sudden, and the minute that you figure out, well, if I sort of go, well, the question of whether I want to wear a bra on any given day is really a decision about whether I've got the wherewithal to be misgendered that day. Because the minute I don't have a bra on, the chances just skyrocket. If I don't put makeup on, but I've been in I was in a shop with a friend. I was in Bunnings, that's where I was, which is a hardware store, and I had this crop top on, and my my hair out in a big ponytail, and I had a face of makeup on because I was just picking something up, and I was with a friend who'd kind of come in from the car with me. I bought these little shorts, and I was wearing heels and everything, and asked them where the something was, and so I went, "Oh, I'm not sure," and turned to this person who he worked with and went, "Oh, this bloke needs nails or something. This bloke needs hammers." And this woman looked at me. This woman looked at me and looked at him and went, "What bloke?" Like, and he kind of went, looked at me, and she kind of, and I don't know what happened, and he just went, "Oh, you want nails?" I just didn't know what to do. I just went, what more do you want from me? I've worn my bra, I've got my makeup on, I've got my, got my décolletessen out, and everything that you could want to give you the signal. But as someone who also considers myself trans non-binary, I also don't take any sort of take any pain or suffering out of it.
No, you see, as I was going through the medicalised procedure, I was introduced to I had 3 sessions, I think, with a voice therapist.
Oh, right.
And I don't know if I could do this, but the idea was that, successful treatment would mean that no one would ever know that I had ever been male. Because as soon as I tried to talk in this way, my voice just gets very quiet and absolutely non-threatening and just almost disappears.
Yeah.
So I'm literally silenced.
Wow.
That's what this therapist was teaching me to do. I went, fuck off.
Yeah.
No. This is not me. My daughter said, "Dad, don't change your voice." But of course, my voice confuses people.
Yes, I've got the same.
But I think, except in real emergencies where I think, oh my God, I'm going to get in real shit, I'm really going to cause embarrassment, just speak in my normal way, because it doesn't matter. But every now and again, in Pakistan, it was so dangerous to be trans. Oh my God. And I didn't know what to do with my voice, I didn't know what to do with my clothes, I didn't know, it was terrible. But voice, my God. Well, my voice is my voice.
Yes.
And your voice, your beautiful voice, is your beautiful voice.
Absolutely. This is the wonderful, inimitable Jo Clifford with her poem, The Naming of Chairs.
Let me introduce you to these chairs. This one's Doris. This one's Bill. Oh, that one's Frederick. And that one's Jill. Oh, Jill used to be Jamie. Oh, she was having problems then, but she's much better now. In fact, she's doing very well, thank you. Oh, I often think of chairs. That one's Dolly. Oh, this one's John. And I think it's really sad because everyone has their histories. And people just park their bums without regard for the places that they're putting them. Oh, life can be so impersonal, don't you think? And it's so important to respect individuality. Well, that table's Janet. Ceiling's name is Jim. Everything has a name, if you look out for it. And the names matter. They put a ring around things. The wall's name is Paul, but close friends call her Mavis. Names are important. Names are a defence against an anonymous and faceless world. Jennifer's the light bulb's name. She used to be known as Robert. Oh, she hated that. Names can be a fortress. Names can be a safe. Sometimes we get locked in them and then we lose the key. Nightshade's name is Richard, but he used to be known as Paula. Oh, that was horrible. Names can be a prison. Names can be a bind. Names can just confuse you. Names can make you blind. Names can leave you just not knowing who in the world you are. Don't ask me what I'm called. I don't have a name. I lost it long ago. Oh, I wasn't my real name anyway. I'm not a light bulb. I'm not a chair. My real name is in the distance. Over there. I don't know where. It's not a place I know. It's somewhere that I've never been, but mean to go. Jo Clifford, 1999. When I read that out in rehearsal earlier this week, it was the very, very first time I had ever read it to anybody. Yeah. So thank you for listening.